Okay, we're here today with Super Cooper, BDM at Sheldon Realty and Senior Property Manager, and we're going to talk about the rental crisis. Coops, what's going on out there?
Investors are selling. Ones that can't afford to keep them are selling. Some who bought in high COVID periods. I've got one who just honestly can't afford his, so he's decided to sell.
Well, let me stop you there.
Yeah.
The misconception is that all investors are super rich and they're just greedy for putting their rents up.
Yeah, that's not the case.
Like, what is the case?
So I've got a lot in my portfolio. I've been doing real estate in Cairns for 18 years, and the people that bought back when it was very low can afford to keep their prices, like their rental. They pretty much own their properties.
Yeah.
So if they've got good tenants, they're just looking after them, and they're just happy to sort of secure that rental property with a good tenant.
Yeah.
But the ones who bought in the more expensive time and the rates keep going up, they can't afford it. They're not rich. Like, they've got their own home.
They're mum and dad investors.
Exactly. They've got their own home. The kids going to school, and they thought they'd buy an investment property.
Yeah.
It would pay for itself, and the interest rates have gone up, and they've got to put their hand in their pocket.
I hear. I heard a guy on the news the other day, though, that said when you buy an investment property, it's like buying shares. And if the shares go down, tough, that's the investment that you took.
Yep.
So why should the tenant suffer? The investor should just take the loss. What do you think?
Yeah, no. The tenants have got a property, they've got a roof over their head, and the investor has to cover those costs.
Yep. But what about the point that they just took a bad investment? It's on them.
True. And that's why they're selling.
And that's the problem I'm seeing from the sales side of things. There's a lot of people coming off low interest rates.
Yes.
1.3 million in the second part of this year, and they're going to go from 2.5% maybe to 6.5%, and it's going to kill them. And they've got a mortgage at home as well. That's just not their investment property.
Exactly.
So there's that side of it. But what do we do at Sheldon Realty to be trying fair and reasonable to everybody? Because at the end of the day, real estate, whether it's property management or sales, it's basically dictated by supply and demand.
Correct. So I'll give you an example. I've got an owner who has a property, and the tenants were paying $550 a week.
Yep.
And she said, I've had a look around the area, and you need to put it up to $750. And I'm like, they're really good tenants, and I know that you want to cover your costs, but you really need to think about having a good tenant. And then I went into negotiation with the tenants and her, and I got it to $650. Tenants were over the moon because they just couldn't afford $750, and they didn't know what they were going to do. So they came to me, and I went to the owner, and I was like a negotiator.
And that's what we do. At the end of the day, property management, people bag real estate for putting the price up. We're the go-between between the owner and the tenant, and we try to negotiate on, to make a good deal for both. But I know, having investment properties, I would rather get a little bit less rent for a great tenant than risking going back out in there and market for a higher rent and get the bad one.
Well, that's right. And that's what I said to her. I said, okay, so if these tenants can't afford it and they vacate, so you're going to be left with maybe a property empty for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep.
Like, by the time they vacate, the exit gets done, everything's all finalised. So you've just lost all that money for that sitting empty when you could have secured a smaller, like the $650 a week.
Yep.
Kept those tenants
in there. Which is still a good increase.
Plus you're up for your let fee, everything else. I said, like, you're going to be less, like you're going to be out of pocket. I said, you've got good tenants. You need to think about that. So she did.
And we've also got to take into consideration that body corporate rates are going through the roof because of the insurance.
Yep.
Home insurance is going, everything is up.
Yep.
And there was a good argument on the TV the other day that I think it was on maybe Sky News, and they were interviewing a guy that was adamantly against rent increases. And he said, well, why don't we put a tax on cauliflower? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, cauliflower's gone up 3 times as much as rent have. Like your groceries, your fuel.
Yep.
Why are we just penalising property owners and saying they can't increase with the cost of living, whereas the cost of living for everything has gone up across the board for everybody?
Yeah. And I think the new legislation where they brought in the once every 12 months, I think that's fair.
Yep.
But this, a certain percentage, because some people could be looked after right now on a lower sort of rental price they're paying because of an owner.
Yeah.
And then it could get sold. And then all of a sudden their rent goes from, they're sitting on say 300 a week, and then the new owner comes in and goes, oh, that's under market, put it up to 550.
And what's your thoughts on the state government's last 2 years of changes to make things fairer for tenants? Has it worked, or has it made things worse for tenants?
So the extra cost to the owner, e.g., like even 2022 smoke alarm compliance, I'm 100% with the smoke alarms, but that costs some owners up to $1,500 just to get that certificate.
Yeah.
Then they've got to do their annual servicing, okay, and then now they've got to bring in the laws with the, every property's got to have curtains, and there's just lots of costs.
There's just more legislation after legislation.
To the owner.
Yeah. I've sold 15 investment properties at least where the investors have said, I've just had enough. Like, I just can't keep.
Yeah.
The amount of legislation changes that have come in fast and furious, so close to COVID, that they've just put their hands up and said, I'm out.
Sell it.
Yeah. And that is the biggest threat to the rental market. If we don't have investors, you don't have rental properties.
No,
and
that's right.
Rents aren't going to come down at all.
And I've had owners that bought like 18 years ago at that really high time, and they've sat there and sat there and sat there and waited until they finally actually made a little bit of a profit. They're selling those, and they're selling them at under 200,000. These first home buyers are buying them, moving into it, and those tenants are going. Exactly.
If first homeowners are buying them and coming out of the rental pool,
fantastic.
That's awesome. But what I'm seeing is there's a lot of people selling because of high interest rates and going back into rentals that had mortgages.
Yes.
And what really pisses me off is the fact that the government trying to divide and separate like they always do, whether it's through COVID, whether it's through the voice, whether it's through pitching owners against tenants.
Yep.
This is all down to local, state and federal government not building enough houses. Like, build some houses and there won't be a rental crisis.
Exactly.
Take away the red tape, get the builders moving and build more houses. And then we won't have a rental crisis, and the tenants will be able to turn around and go, hey, you want $650 for the house, we're only giving you $600, because that has happened in the past. Where buyer's market, seller's market, rental market, investment market, it's all swings and roundabouts.
Sure does.
So what about, there was a report the other day that real estate agents are against renting to single mums. Tell us a bit about that, because I know this is close to your heart.
This is so close to my heart. No, I in my portfolio, me being a single mum myself, with 2 small children, I've always had like a little soft spot for single mums. And a lot of my portfolio, I could have a lot of them write reports to say, thank you so much for giving me a chance. And I must say they are like one of my best tenants in there, because they always pay their rent, because that's the most important thing. Then they'll do everything after that. If they're going to be 1 or 2 days late, they'll always text me or always email me just to say.
So where does this thing come from, that real estate? And I'm not saying, like, there could be a real estate agent across the road or down the road that are biased. Everyone's individual. Real estate is a property manager that's making an individual decision on whether that tenant gets the home. But that's actually not true, is it? Tell us how the application process works.
So I can give you an example.
Yeah.
I had a client, a lady ring me through another client of mine, and she was crying, and she had literally like 3 weeks to find another place because the house she's in was going for sale, and she had to be out.
Yeah.
So I said to her, she rang me up, and I said, look, just come in here, fill out an application form. So I said, bring your 100 points of ID, bring your current rental ledger, bring any other references that you've got, bring any statements. She said, oh, I'm only working casual. I've got this job and this job. I'm studying. I get Ausstat. I get child support. I might just bring all that in. And anyway, she brought it all in. We went through it. She said, and also my dad is willing to go guarantor for me if I don't like meet the affordability.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I said, would your dad like go on the lease? She said, yes, 100%. So we did the processing, we got it all done, and she went through a property, and we've approved her.
So let's just explain that a bit more detail. If somebody out there is willing to go guarantor for you, it means that they go on the lease as a tenant.
Yes.
And then if the person that's living in the property actually defaults, that falls on the guarantor as well.
Exactly.
And they're the ones that's going to get dragged to QCAT. So it's not a light thing to go on as a guarantor.
No, it's not.
But for us, that's great. If you've got a parent or, family friend, but we prefer family that's willing to go guarantor, that's a big boost to your application as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So explain to people out there that might not know how the process goes when an application comes in, because then I want to talk about affordability after that.
Okay, so when the application comes in, we will do a ticker check.
Yeah.
Which is
What's ticker?
It's like an Australian-wide database. So if you've ever been in default and gone over your bond, you'll be placed on ticker until you pay that debt off.
So if you've damaged a property, you've arrears,
anything over your bond.
History?
Yeah. So anything over your bond, and then we'll do the check and just say it comes up with, boom, like you're on there. It'll actually bring up the old real estate, and we'll just give them a call, and they'll just say, look, it was for, this, and this.
Yeah.
And we'll let them know, look, sorry that you are on ticker, which my landlord will not get insurance if I take you on. So my advice to you is go pay that debt off and get off ticker.
And this is another thing that the government could be doing as well. People that are on ticker, they're not going to get a rental property. They go for the private market, Gumtree, Facebook, because they can't get through our checks.
No.
And the reason is, first of all, generally, they've had a bad history in being a tenant, which is unfortunate. So if we've got a good application and somebody that's on ticker, which one are we going to put forward to our owner?
That's right.
Obviously, they're not going to get a rental property.
But that's why I say to them, you're on ticker. The best way you can fix this is go and pay that debt.
But this is what I'm saying. There should be schemes out there from the government.
Yeah.
If people have got a bad history, they go and sort that out for them and put them on a payment plan.
Yeah.
That is something the government could do right now, tomorrow,
100%.
to help tenants get back into rental properties.
100%.
Yeah.
And if they don't have that ticker that comes up, well, there's the first check for me.
Yeah.
You're good. The government set up something for them to pay $50 a fortnight or whatever to get them off that, and then they have to pay that back. Then they've already ticked one box.
Now let's talk about affordability, because that's the second reason that people don't go through a rental property. Tell me about affordability.
So affordability is 30% of your gross income.
Yeah.
So that can be anything.
Wages,
Centrelink, the whole lot. Yeah.
So if the rent is more than 30% of their gross income, we don't rent to them. Correct. And that isn't because we don't want to. That is because, again, insurance, the landlord insurance, if we rent to a tenant that's 40% affordability, the tenant defaults on the rent, we go in front of the magistrate to have them evicted. The magistrates will turn around and go, you shouldn't have rented to them in the first place because you knew they couldn't afford it.
But there's one other thing too, that their insurance, the landlord
insurance won't cover
they want all that information. So then I have to send that through, and they're like, oh, hang on, here's the application form. Boom, declined.
So the insurance company will turn down the landlord for a claim on arrears and eviction because we shouldn't have rented to them if the affordability was over 30%. Another thing that the government could intervene with, they could basically make the insurance companies make the affordability 40% because everything's gone up. Everything, broccoli, cucumbers, petrol, affordability could go up now, and that would give you at least another 20% of tenants that apply that could then afford that property.
Yeah.
So slugging landlords and slugging real estate agents is not the answer. Government needs to get in and fix it, basically, from my point of view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So tell us about what makes a good tenant. What do we look for in a good tenant?
In the application process?
Yeah.
And
rental. How does, if we get 3 good applications, what is our next step?
Okay, so rental history is a big one. We will send off that to any other agents, and if they come back with a fantastic, great tenant, paid the rent on time, the whole lot, that's a
tick, tick, tick.
Oh,
so we've got 3 scenario. We've got 3 really good applications. We've got single mom with 2 kids. We've got a couple with a German Shepherd and we've got 2 single guys that want to move in together, but they all pass affordability.
Yep.
They've all got great references.
Yep.
What's the next step?
I take that to the owner.
And you give, so
The
who
owner
ultimately decides?
The owner makes that choice.
Yeah.
100%. I don't want to make that choice. If I've got 3 good applications, I will send them to the owner to say, this.
Yeah.
Make your decision.
Mm.
But in saying that, whatever decision he goes with, the other 2 applications, I'll try and put him in another property.
Yeah.
So
what is the solution? Like, we're hearing this, there's going to be a story coming out soon, and we're seeing these pictures of people sleeping in their cars, can't get a property, they're sleeping on the streets. Why can't they get a property?
there's a reason why they can't get a property, and it's normally they don't meet the affordability, they've got bad rental history. We don't just decline people and put them in cars.
Yeah, but this is why we're not. What can a tenant do that's got a bad history to get themselves a clean up their history, basically?
As in they're blacklisted on ticker.
So if they're on ticker,
get off ticker.
How do you do that?
So you just have to organise who the real estate was that you rented through.
Yeah.
Pay that debt off. Get them to clear your name, which they have to.
So they legally have to take you off ticker.
They legally have to take you off ticker once you've paid that debt.
Yeah.
So then you're off that. You won't come up on the database then. That's like tick. So
that gets you to the next stage.
100%. And even like I've had a lot of people lately are doing cover letters. I've got other people who have got references from neighbours.
Yeah.
I've got references from business colleagues. I've got references from what they're doing to like get their applications over the line is, to me, like they're actually putting in a huge effort. So they're going to put a huge effort in to looking after that house.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel.
So yeah, I suppose the moral of this is it's tough for everybody out there. Everybody's expenses have gone up. Our expenses have gone up.
Yeah, my insurance just went up $800 this year.
I know. So like
I tried to fight and negotiate it, and she's like,
everybody's doing it tough. But like I said again, like when you hear out there on social media pages, Cairns Northern Beaches pages, Cairns Rentals, and it's just tenants against investors, and you're the scum of the earth, and no, you're the scum of and real estates. Like, turn that anger and point it towards your government, because they're responsible for all this. And I'm not holding back on that. Local council, state and federal are all to blame, and start blaming your politicians. Contact your MPs, contact your local councillor, contact anybody you can, and tell them to start building more houses, more affordable houses, and more medium to high density houses to accommodate people.
She's on holidays, but at the moment.
Who?
Palaszczuk.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe you'll leave
that. She's not contactable.
We'll get her next week.
She's not contactable.
Okay, Coops, I'll see you on the next podcast, and all good.